All right. Happy Friday, people, and welcome to Crafting Effective Gen AI Prompts, a Gen AI capability building initiative from the Transformative Technology team in partnership with the Aboitiz Academy. I am Andrew, by the way, from the People team. Now, before anything else, we would like to thank you for spending your Friday morning with us and for joining us today in our learning session. Now, today we'll explore how to harness the power of generative AI to boost creativity, enhance efficiency, and drive smarter, more innovative solutions in the workplace. As AI or artificial intelligence becomes integral to our daily operations, understanding its potential is no longer optional. It is indeed essential. Now, beyond just technology, Gen AI capability building is critical for staying competitive in today's fast evolving landscape as it revolutionizes the future of work. Now, before we deep dive into the discussion, just some reminders that this is a capability building session for our A people. Feel free to browse through LinkedIn Learning or other learning resources or providers to learn more about the topic. Now, also, this session is being recorded. Just a reminder for everyone. Please mute your microphones rather to avoid distractions and when practicing during our demos, drills, or exercises, please use only the official Aboitiz licensed Gen AI tools. Feel free to connect with your IT on the available Gen AI tools for you. Now, I hope everything is crystal clear. May I see a thumbs up from everyone if everything is crystal clear? All right, I hope that is very clear for us. Now, before we begin, we would like to ask everyone to turn on their cameras for a quick class picture. Everyone, please turn on your cameras. All right. For us to see your excitement for the session today and to see your lovely faces this Friday morning. All right, at the count of three, let's just wait for everyone to turn on their cameras. All right, I hope everyone has turned on the cameras. All right. We see fellows from the different BUs. Wow. So we currently have 300 participants joining us. Lovely. Please turn on your cameras. All right, everyone. A people, please. Thank you so much. All right, at the count of three. One, two, three, smile. Another one. One, two, three, smile. All right, big heart. All right. One, two, three, smile. Okay, dokes. I hope that pumped up the energy from everyone. Now, for us to be able to really start the session, let's move on to introducing our speaker for today. Now, to start our session on a high note, I'd like to kindly introduce to everyone the first vice president of the transformative technology team, one of our Gen AI gurus in the Avoitis group. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Wolfgang Mert.
Good morning, eight people, and thank you so much for the introduction, Andrew. It's my absolute pleasure today to give a few opening remarks before handing you over to the stars of today's show that will run you through the training. So to kick us off, I'd like to reflect back onto the New Year's message that SMA sent almost 10 months ago today, which really focused at how AI will transform ourselves, our workplace, and the job roles of the future. And this is a message that has been echoed widely in society and in many countries around the world. AI is fundamentally transforming how we do our jobs and how our job functions change. Some jobs may change entirely, a lot of new ones will emerge, but the key thing is that we keep being engaged and keep upskilling and modifying to this future. So we're very grateful that you're all joining us here today in our journey on one of these learning sessions on prompt engineering as we dive into GenAI. So if we look at the outline for today's session, we will first start with a general overview. What is GenAI? How does it differ from traditional AI? Before really diving into some use cases and some prompt engineering hands-on with the team, with RJ and Colette that will run you through most of the session. We will also dive into some of the more special cases that some of these tools may offer and how you can customize AI to your workflows to really make it work for you rather than being a simple tool that you might pick up off the shelf. And we'd also discuss a little bit later on how AI will reshape the future of work. So quite a lot to cover for today, but let's dive in. So what is GenAI? So if we look at GenAI, GenAI really differs. So this is that it is focused on creating new content. A lot of the machine learning, the AI methods has used existing content to make decisions, to classify things, to understand things, to predict numbers. But GenAI differs in that it can generate what seems like new content to us, seems like to have some creativity, seems like to differ from purely understanding, classifying, and giving predictions. So that's the big difference and why it's entering our world and how that might lead to it seeming to be a lot more capable and on the cusp of transforming us more fundamentally. So that means new output in text, in images, in music, in video, in many, many different modalities and what it can generate. And of course, for us, the way it presents itself often is it's this prompt box. It's this enter box like in ChatGPT. You put some text in and then audio, images, video, or text comes out on the other end. And of course, this is the first evolution of how these systems work. So it's really a different modalities input, different modalities output, but that is the most common one. So we can really start interacting with these systems in a much more natural language way, the way we used to speak, the way we used to type, rather than having to be in a custom system that is really highly customized and usually requires experts to modify it to specific tasks. So that's like some of the big changes of why we're seeing such an excitement today. So to get started, let's look at a couple of key concepts because they do come up quite frequently. And the first one, of course, is machine learning. And this is really making sure that, or this is the entire field, and it's a very, very large and very mature field that's been going on for a very long time that looks at learning from data to make decisions, predictions, or to generate content. So this covers a lot of methods, right? It covers neural networks, it covers deep learning, it covers a lot of basic methods. But in essence, if you used something like a linear regression in Excel or in Google Sheets, or even on pen and paper, that is covered in this very vast field of machine learning. Then, of course, you have lots and lots of other methods. If you take statistics classes, or if you take the data science bootcamp of the UBP Accelerator, you will also get introduced to that wide breadth and in a lot more detail of what are all these variants that you might be looking at in this field. Another concept that might come up quite a lot, and especially this week with the Nobel Prize announcement has gotten a lot of attention again is neural networks. And this is really one of these core fundamental types of neural networks that is really of AI methods and machine learning that is really driving a lot of the growth, a lot of the potential at the moment. This is what people say is modeled after the human brain. So you have a lot of these neurons, these nodes, and you can build these very, very, very large networks. And the larger they get, the more powerful they get, the more complex of concepts they can understand. And this is what has powered a lot of the performance and capability of AI in the last few years. The bigger we build these networks and the more powerful of compute we have to train these networks, the better the performance becomes. And then you might have also heard deep learning. So deep learning really looks at neural networks that are very deep, that are very complex. And this is a bit of the difference between, let's say, the early neural networks in the 1950s and the 1960s that could only be very, very small. And deep means they're really deep. So this is about the last 15 years, since about 2012 is usually the date that people mention. That's when that era began. Training data is something that comes up quite a lot, quite important. This is what we use to test and evaluate machine learning or AI models. And how good the training data is usually impacts how good the model can be. And at the same time, any bias, any underlying issues the training data might have can impact the quality of these models and the resulting systems that will get developed. Then finally, generative models, generative AI. Where does that come from? This is really not looking at making decisions or predictions. This is about understanding the core concepts and then within these constraints of what the core concept is, generating new content. It's essentially like you roll the dice within the space of what a concept, what a concept is, and you get a lot of new ideas that look like new content that is being generated. So if we look at this at a broader scale, all these concepts, this is how essentially the nutshell breaks down. You have AI as the big one, as the overarching one that can contain traditional AI. This means rules that people generate, very well crafted, manually maintained systems, but it can also contain learned systems, right? So this is what comes from machine learning, where people really use to learn from data rather than to specify rules. We cover deep learning, and then inside deep learning, you see GenAI. So in short, AI is so much more than GenAI, but for today, we're really looking at how can we use these foundational models of GenAI and make the most of it with prompt engineering. With that out of the way, just a few more concepts before we really hand you over to the gentleman who will run this session. LLMs, you might hear that thrown around quite a lot, stands for large language models. So this is really the current generation or the current systems of these highly complex AI models that can process natural language. So natural language, of course, is the one that we speak. NLP, the science or the study of how we process and how a computer can understand natural language, has been around for a long time. But now this is handled by these large AI systems. So that's why you might see these terms quite interchangeably. Prompt engineering is how do we make sure we get the best out of these very general systems? How do we craft? What is the process, the iteration that we need to apply? And how does it change our behavior, how we interact, how we're a bit more playful than we are with traditional software to really make sure we get what we want, we get the high quality, because this is really the paradigm shift. It's not a skill you learn once, it's a process that you apply, that you iterate to get the most out of it of these systems. You might also hear the word fine-tuning quite a lot in GenAI. This is nothing that we will cover. This is nothing that is relevant for most people. This is really when companies or labs usually take existing models and try to get them to be much more custom, much more specific to the area that you're in. This is very involved. It takes expertise and it takes quite a lot of investment. This is nothing that we will be looking at as a general user. We're really focusing on how do we get the most out of the off-the-shelf methods that we can get, and that is usually around prompt engineering. And then finally, the gentleman will also tell you about ethical considerations. It's quite important for us to be mindful. These systems can fail, they will fail, and especially if they're being misprompted and misused. And overall, it's really important for us to always keep in mind to use them in an ethical and responsible manner and really understand what the implications of the use might be. So we as the people are augmented by these systems. They can fail, and we are the moderator. We are the person to manage them and make sure that they're used in a good manner. All right, so with this, if we move on, the other question that often came up is, so what's the difference, right? So traditional programming is really very, very strict. People write down the rules. They have to understand the language. The syntax can be quite strict versus machine learning. Sorry, we have to go back a slide. 2 slides, actually. Yeah. If you look at the neural networks that we mentioned, this was really, you showed them lots of examples and people had to give you the answer, and then the networks would learn and would be able to answer the specific task that you trained them for. Zooming forward to generative AI, is this really not setting really rules and specifications and examples of how something would be, but it's essentially you feed it the entire internet, the entire human knowledge, and you let it understand the concepts. And then you can query it and prompt it, which is what we'll cover today, on extracting and generating content within the space of concept. With that, I'd say we move on a couple slides in the interest of time. But I think the key message is you've probably seen it happen a lot in like a lot of the news has been blowing up. What we really can say is that the speed at which these methods have been accelerating has been getting a lot faster, and they've also been getting a lot more capable. So what has been what might have seemed very comical just a year or two ago is now in the realm of being believable that it might impact us. And within the next few years, we might see it get to a stage where it really has a significant impact. So for instance, if we look just one slide before this, on some of these examples, you can see some of that development. And this is something to keep in mind. If you see something today that it doesn't quite hit the bar, keep it in mind. It might evolve rapidly within a year, 2 or 3 to really hit the mark where it can become a reliable partner. So with this, we've really quite seen a lot of news, a lot of excitement in the last year, incredible acceleration in this space. And this is really something that will most likely continue a little bit. So it's really something we should be taking into account. But maybe if we move on one slide, we can of course see that this has translated into hundreds of AI tools that we might be able to access that look at audio, video, image, all these different modalities. But it is, of course, a question of, what's the right one and how to make sense. But let's just look at a couple examples. So for instance, if we look at this here on the left-hand side, this is AI video generation. Just a year ago, this was in the area of uncanny, unbelievable. It didn't have any quality. It didn't really make sense. And you zoom forward 1 year only, and suddenly it's in the stage where it might make sense. It might only do a couple of seconds today. It might do a minute tomorrow. It might do 5 minutes in 2 years. And this is really the point where we have to understand at what point do we believe on it, rely on it, and is this something that might come? Not everything is here and ready today. The second example I wanted to show you here is about 2 years ago, AI generation in coding or in programming could do autocomplete, the same thing that you might get on iPhone that gives you a couple of words extra to complete. A year later, you could do a couple lines. And now today we're at the stage, you can take a picture of a website, an app, and ask it to, can you code this for me? And in most cases, it will give you at least a rough draft that allows you to get started and that allows a person with the skill set to keep modifying. And this is really a perfect example to see the acceleration and the advancement that these models have taken in just a very short amount of time. And that we also can expect at least a little bit more advancement in the next few years where this can really become something that we will start using on a daily basis. And then finally, I'd like to show you one more example, which came courtesy of Aboitis Land that they shared in the Beyond Transformation Google space, which is really something that shows us that these models, these systems can really have some value and relate to our daily work and provide us with something that might be able to use or to accelerate that helps you cut down on time and gives you the modification and the content that you might need in your daily work. So in this case, the team looked at, can we generate essentially a stock image that is believable enough that it can work within the content, the message that we wanted to convey. And the systems can modify and generate quite quickly. And today, these images, they look close to photorealistic. You can still tell they are AI generated, but it is a significant leap forward than we were a couple of years ago. With that, very briefly, a look at how we're handling this at AAV. And I know that the SBUs all have their own strategy. So for us, we're looking at 3 pillars. One is we're looking at GenAI productivity tools. This is really making sure we support team members in their everyday work and their everyday productivity by giving them additional work tools and training them on how to use this. This is similar to today's session. The second one is looking at targeted GenAI applications. That's working with the functional stakeholders to get custom or specific solutions usually integrated into the enterprise systems to support specific functions. And then the third one is GenAI has not just advanced in capability, it has also significantly democratized. It is significantly easier to use these tools today and customize and build something on your own. And this is why we're looking at building this in-house development capability to run and support functions on this level. And most importantly, all of this is tied together by enablement training, by experimentation, and by support, such as the training for today, or as well as consultancy or advisory to really help people make sure they maximize these tools. With that, a few milestones of the journey that we've, for instance, taken so far. So for those of you that have attended LeadCon or some of the events since may have seen the co-host, that it's an example of the targeted applications. Building internal chatbots and building internal GenAI search engines is an example of the in-house development capability. And then, of course, you've seen the hundreds of tools that exist in the GenAI space. The third pillar is really making sure we evaluate what makes sense for AV, for the group, and what is safe to use and in what setting, and what really benefits the team members throughout. So it's the third pillar. However, with this very long introduction out of the way, it is now my absolute pleasure to hand you over to RJ, who's going to run you for the first part of this training. RJ, take it away.
All right. Thanks for the introduction, Bob. So quick information about me. I'm RJ from the AV Transformative Tech team. Some of you, especially those who participated in the Gemini experimentations, know me as the annoying guy who always reminds you to fill out the checkpoint forms. But don't worry, for today, I won't be asking you to do anything. I'll just ask you to have an open mind and willingness to learn. So Wolf gave us a thorough introduction about generative AI that It's just a subset for larger field of AI applications. I will now start introducing you to the before we get to the exciting part, the boring stuff about how Gen AI works, its implications to us as end users. So what you're seeing here, this does not explain how the generative models work or how to train. Let's leave that for the data scientists. Rather, this here is how the models are used in generating new content. So Wolf mentioned earlier LLMs or large language models. This is what happens behind the scenes in between sending your prompt and receiving the response. So AI analyzes the data, identifies the patterns, AI understands the context, AI generates new text based on learned patterns. So depending on the tool or intent, it can also be new images or new sound or new video. And AI refines the output, making sure that it makes sense. All these steps in between, it uses the large language model. So it's important to understand what happens when you send the prompt so that we know how to effectively take advantage of its capabilities. So just so we get a better picture of what happens behind the scenes, let's try to define some terms that we will be mentioning frequently throughout the session. And you might also encounter these terminologies after or when you do your own research and try out different Gen AI tools available out there. So prompt interpretation, very straightforward. It's the process the Gen AI and LLMs go through to interpret your prompt. Tokenization, so you might encounter announcements like a new large language model in the market saying it increased the number of tokens it can process. Like when Gemini 1.5 was released, it boasted it can now run up to 1 million tokens in production compared to 32,000 tokens with its previous version. So tokens are the broken down units that the AI model uses to analyze and generate response. So which is important to the next one, to textual understanding. So the more tokens a model can process, the more context you can incorporate during processing. And probability estimation, the models have mathematics behind them. So part of those are algorithms that estimate the probability that the generated response answered the prompt sent by the user. So this is something that happens in the background. Another thing that happens in the background is sampling. So based on the probabilities estimated, the model selects samples of generated responses to be used as part of the final response. And response generation is the process of assembling the final response for consumption by the end user. Iteration and refinement, there are instances that the output generated is not satisfactory. So the Gen AI platforms nowadays enables you to refine the prompt by either editing the last prompt or sending a follow-up prompt until the desired result is achieved. So don't be frustrated when Gen AI tools does not meet your expectations. Sometimes it's really a limitation of the tool or the model, but oftentimes it's a matter of refining the initial prompt. And temperature setting, some Gen AI tools enable you to set this, especially those being used by developers. This setting controls the randomness of the generated output. So the higher the temperature usually means the more random the output is going to be. So hopefully we now have a better understanding of how generative AI works. Now, how do we make sure that the prompts we send take into consideration what's happening in the background so that the AI models generate the desired output? So first, let's define what is prompting. Prompting is the process of providing instructions or input to Gen AI platforms. And one pattern that we usually follow for your prompt to be effective is we call it PTCL. It stands for persona, task, context, and format. So these are four main areas to consider when writing effective prompt. You don't need to use all four, but using a few will help. And later in our use cases, we will be heavily referencing this framework in the prompts that we'll use. So just a disclaimer, this is not the only pattern available out there. So some patterns include examples. So you can mention example outputs that you give the Gen AI model and an idea of what to generate. You can also add constraints. You can mention to the model what it should not or should do, and what should it not include in its response. And you can also add tone. You can specify if you want the response to convey a certain emotion in its response. So it also depends on the nature of your intent. So for example, for image generation, it is expected to have context related to the visual imagery that you are asking for. So it may be the color, the art style. You want the image to be in the style of a certain artist, or maybe as a style of art like impressionism or abstract. So this is so we'll revisit this framework later. And aside from the basic anatomy of a prompt, we've also curated some checklists you can follow when sending prompts. So first of all, use natural language. So our tendency is to use Gen AI similar to how we use search engines, just inputting keywords. So you don't have to be restricted. Gen AI can understand full sentences. Be specific and iterate, provide as much context as possible, but at the same time, be concise and avoid complexity, avoid jargon. Explain this as part of your prompt if needed, and always prompt with the end in mind. What's the output that you need from the Gen AI model? And use a tone and style. This is not necessary, but it helps, especially if you don't want your responses to be very robotic. And make it a conversation and follow up. If you're not satisfied with the response, refine. And when in doubt, ask for the source of its data. And then always verify the correctness of the responses. All right, so we are highlighting here, and it's very important to make sure you use only SBU approved and SBU provisioned enterprise instances of Gen AI tools. So if in doubt, reach out to your SBU IT or CIS teams on which tools are available and permitted to be used, and which use cases, as well as for evaluation or approval of new tools. For AAV, we are using Gemini and ChatGPT teams. These are also the tools that went through experimentations and due diligence. And most of the use cases later will also revolve around these tools. So we're showing this to give you an idea of what it will and should look like when you are using SBU approved and SBU provision enterprise instances of the Gen AI tool and what to look out for. And again, so this reminder will appear multiple times throughout the session. So for those of you who are planning to do it along, so just make sure to use only SBU approved, SBU provision instances. So we now know how Gen AI works and how we can create effective prompts and how we can access them. Now, when do we use Gen AI? So what you're seeing here is an output of the Gen AI experimentations that we did earlier this year. This is based on the responses from the checkpoint forms completed out by the participants. So big shout out to our participants during the experimentation phase. This is just a recommendation, and this is not an exhaustive list, especially since the tools we're experimenting, they've experimented are only ChatGPT and Gemini so far. So, and those tools are also continuously evolving. So Gen AI tools might not be the best fit for the workstream for now. So um, keep that in mind. And to better guide you, if you are unsure where your workstream falls under, whether it can benefit the help of generative AI, you can check which kinds of files do you work with and the corresponding Gen AI capabilities. So please note that this is as of today. This list can very much be irrelevant in upcoming months as more capabilities are being rolled out. Please also note that each capability has different levels of maturity. Certain tools are specific for each file type. So again, always consult your BU IT or CIS team. And since we're in the enterprise, always check the tools you're going to use respects data privacy. All right, so we'll end this section with some known limitations of generative AI. Again, this is as of today, as the adoption of generative AI grows and with the current speed of innovation in the AI space, we might be seeing these limitations getting addressed sooner rather than later. So regulations are being crafted, which aims to regulate usage and address these limitations too. The Gen AI tools is just as good as its model and the data it was trained with, as Wolf highlighted earlier. It also results to a lot of bias. It's also a challenge updating new information unless the training data is also updated. So there's also an ongoing debate on whether generative AI is really creative or is it really understanding the way humans understand. So our take here is that the generated ideas, although it may not be necessarily new, it may be new for the user or the audience. So, and I think that's the essence of generative AI. It's meant to inspire you and spark ideas and make your work much easier, more efficient, and tasks that usually take time are faster. So, especially if we go through the traditional route of research. And one of the biggest limitations is on the issue of data privacy and security. So that's why we always keep on reminding you to always use only SBU approved and SBU provisioned enterprise instances of the Gen AI tool and in line with the SBU data governance and data usage policies. Because of because the data that we send over these tools may be used other than what it was intended for. So our SBU, IT, and CIS teams are equipped to look for these red flags in these tools. All right, so which also brings us to AI ethics and bias. So very connected to the limitations of generative AI. So we already understood how generative AI works and its limitations. With that, we can understand its ethical implications. So just a refresher, LLM, the large language models, it's the math behind the generative AI. That large language models are just a subset of generative AI. So these large language models, they are the brain of GenAI tools. They play a crucial role in making the magic happen. So to get there, developers train the LLMs or AI models using a lot of training data. That's usually where the ethical concerns come from. The nature of the data being used to train these models. So for those in the business of developing LLMs, so I think in the Aboitiz group, the closest one with the ADI, we are advised to keep in mind certain aspects when developing these tools. And for us as end users, I think majority of the audience here are end users. We are to make sure that the tools we're using comply with this. That's why, again, we stress to reach out to your SBU IT and CIS teams when you plan to use tools, especially when it handles company data. They are equipped to look for those red flags in these tools. And in the absence of these policies, we as an organization are exposing ourselves and our customers to a number of risks. So very high in that list is the risk of data privacy and security. And it also compromises the quality of the output that we deliver in terms of reliability and balance. So let's all do our part to use Gen AI responsibly. As a business, it's our responsibility to train people on ethical AI practices. And this key focus Friday session is just one of those many sessions. Let's also familiarize ourselves with the AI regulations and frameworks being crafted. This is a very active space that our lawmakers and experts are engaging on, especially on the question of whether Gen AI responses are a form of plagiarism. So our responsibility is to monitor the progress in this space so that we may comply in the future. And as end users, let's familiarize how AI systems work and point out if you feel there's a violation in data privacy and data usage policies, or if the output generated is not being used responsibly. So what steps can we take to make sure that we are using Gen AI responsibly? We've curated a checklist that you can follow. This is also very memorable acronym EBRY. So of course, above all, get consent, get permission to use AI generated content. This includes checking if it really makes sense to use Gen AI for the task. Always verify the data sources, edit or refine as necessary. Don't use the output of the Gen AI tool as is without reviewing it or refining it. And at the end of the day, you as the user are still responsible for the output. Gen AI is just a tool. And we've added one more, and as much as possible, indicate when you've used generative AI, especially in AI generated images, videos, audio, or etc. So part of our role also is to familiarize ourselves with the AI regulations and frameworks being crafted. So this is a very active space being worked on by governments around the world. A number of countries are advanced, while some are still in the initial stages. We have listed here some notable regulations, frameworks, and agreements worldwide. And in our country, we don't have an active regulation yet for AI, but this is already in scope with our existing Data Privacy Act, but more in the lens of data privacy and protection. So there are also pending laws being reviewed by Congress, and our country is also a signatory to a number of international agreements or declarations. So the message here is that the Philippines is active in policy making and participative in international cooperation for responsible use of AI. So it's our responsibility to educate ourselves on these laws and frameworks to ensure compliance. And what to look out for in AI regulations. So our recurring theme is that it's always on top of data privacy regulations. Check the type of regulation and the underlying rationale behind these regulations, depending on the country's priorities. Sometimes it favors the big companies, sometimes it favors the consumers. Check for the scope and whether new regulatory bodies are created because of these regulations, or existing regulatory bodies will execute the implementing rules. So check what penalties can be incurred in terms of violation and what are the risks. And what it means for the avoidance group, it means policies and procedures being crafted internally are compliance by design while still promoting innovation. And this should include regular audit and AI usage review. And the best practice is to document the processes that involve generative AI in the loop. So I think our PIA documentation is very crucial for this. It will also help depending on the regulators on what information they require. And if developing AI systems from scratch, avoid bias and make sure the data sources are sourced responsibly. All right, so I think at this point, we have come at the end of our first module of the AI overview. Before we head on to the exciting part of use cases and seeing the prompting frameworks in action, let's take a 3 minute or a 5 minute break, Andrew, right? So
Let's have a 5 minute break, RJ. Yep.
all right.
Yep. Everyone, let's be back by, since it's 10:37, let's be back by 10:42. All right. We'll have a 5 minute break. See you after our break. Thanks. All right, I think we are back. Okay, we have a lot of participants, by the way, RJ. We also have our participants joining us via our YouTube live. So again, just a reminder to everyone, as our session continues, feel free to ask questions for those joining us via Zoom. We have our Q&A tab for you to ask your questions. You can ask anonymously as well. For those who are joining us via YouTube, please feel free to chat your questions via our YouTube live streaming. All right. So I think we are good. We're back, RJ. We can resume. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Andrew. So welcome back, everyone. So I understand that the overview might be overwhelming. So don't worry, about this Academy will be sending a copy of these slides and also the recording so that you can. And all right, so we are done with the generative AI overview. So I hope you learned something out of that. Just a quick refresher on the PTCF framework for prompting before we dive into our use cases. So persona, task, context, and format, these are not all required to be present at the same time, but it helps the Gen AI models achieve your desired outcome. So remember that the Gen AI tools are iterative, so you can edit your prompt or send a follow-up prompt. Also, this framework will not be the same framework that's effective for
RJ,
future Gen AI models.
RJ,
So always be, yes,
kindly reshare the slides. Thank you so much.
oh,
We can see it on screen. Thank you so much.
let me reshare. Sorry about that. Right. Can you see my slides?
Yes, RJ.
Thanks, Andrew. So sorry about that. So you didn't miss anything. This is our refresher of PTCF framework. So you have the same framework that's effective for the future Gen AI models. So always be in the lookout for new and better ways of prompting. So for example, extra prompting might be necessary in the latest GPT-4o model. So it does not require more context because it's able to take in the environment of the prompter as well as handle more tokens. So bigger window of context. And again, make sure to use only SBU approved and SBU provisioned enterprise instances of the Gen AI tool and in line with SBU data governance and data usage policies. When in doubt, reach out to your SBU IT. So let's now dive into our use cases. The first one will be text generation. So this is the this is also the first use case of ChatGPT when it was launched. So our use case here are done using either Gemini or ChatGPT, two of the most common Gen AI tools. For this section, we'll focus on use cases generating text, including programming code as a flat text. So most common use case, drafting documents. So we have the sample prompt here and following the PTCF framework. So the use case here is we're trying to draft an HR policy for hybrid work arrangement. So the persona that we're asking the Gen AI tool to act as is the organization's HR. The task at hand is to draft a policy document regarding remote work. And the context quite long, but as mentioned, the more context that you send, the more that's going to um, give out your preferred output. So the subject is hybrid work arrangement. Effective date is January next year. Highlight that the policy, the importance of the policy, the flexible work arrangements in today's labor landscape, and that an explicit agreement between the leader and the team member is crucial. So please generate following a common company policy format. So you can also reiterate this. If you have a multi standard format or your SBU standard format, you can add it as part of your format part. So maybe the prompt could mention that please generate following this sequence. So like that. And then when we send this over to Gemini, this is the output. So if you can see, it's actually almost ready to use. So it has an introduction, the importance of flexible work arrangement, and it's quite a long and ready document. So I think the message here for document drafting is that it saves you the time of actually starting from scratch. So you now have a draft that You just need to review. So this saves you time. Sorry, this saves you time, and you will just need to review and edit to make it more relevant to your organization. So that's the first use case. Another use case here is email response drafting. So let's say, for example, you receive a request for time off. So the prompt that very simple, but you might want to experiment on this. So you might not be confident in your the way that you will respond to a similar request. So the prompt that you can send the Gen AI tool is, I'm a team leader, and so that's the persona. The task is, I receive an email requesting for time off for a team member. I'm going to send you the email request. Then that email request is going to be part of the context. Sorry, that is the context. And then the task is to please draft a response email, and the format is make it sound professional, aesthetic at the same time. So it's not more of a format, but more of a tone. So you can also add that. So again, since we're sending the email over, make sure you use only SBU approved and SBU efficient enterprise instances of that tool. And then, so this is the sample output that it generated. So from here, you can just copy paste the response and make it more sound like you as the team leader. Another use case here is report generation. Let's say, for example, you have a sample data set. So the data that we have here is um, from Google Sheet. It's in Google Sheet, the number of revenue and social media posts per month for the whole year. So the best practice here is to upload to get a CSV or Excel file format of this data and then attach it together with the prompt. So the prompt can be that the persona is, I'm a social media manager handling the social media pages for a company. And then the context is, I attach that data for this year containing revenue and number of posts for each month. So just describe the data, what the Gen AI tool should be expecting. And then the task is to create a detailed report based on this data for inclusion in an annual report. And the format is make it sound professional. So you can add more context there, more format specifications there. So let's see that in action. So it actually generated a report that's ready to be included to the annual report. So there's an overview, there's a monthly breakdown. One thing that you should that maybe I can highlight here is that it ended on May, but we gave the data until December. So you can reiterate the prompt that provide the same monthly breakdown for the missing months. So like that, and then you can also edit this to make it more suitable for your environment. So that's for report generation. And then for code generation, this might be more relevant to the developers out there, but because of generative AI, we're seeing non-coders actually starting to learn coding skills. So this use case here, which is I think very common in the group, is once you have a Google form and you want to every time there's a response that you receive, you want to be notified, and at the same time, you want to notify the respondents a custom message. So the prompt here, the persona that we're trying to that we're asking Gen AI to act as is, I am part of the risk team in our company, and I am tasked to collect the latest contact information of all our employees. Maybe this is um, for upcoming drill. Then the context here is I have a Google form that logs responses to a Google Sheet. It collects email, name, address, and mobile number. And the task is I want to be notified every time you enter stuff and send a confirmation email to the employee at the same time. So please generate a Google App script I can use to automate this. So Google App script is actually a built-in feature of Google Sheets where you can put code in for automating data within Google Sheets. So we sent that over to Gemini, and what's nice about this is that it generated the code, but other than the code, it also generated its thought process in coming up with that code. So it tried to understand the task first, and then it gave you step by step where to go, what to click, and then putting the script. And then yeah, so Yeah. So it helps you to have an understanding of how the code works, or if you have a background of Google Apps script. But the beauty of Gen AI is that you can also ask it to explain the code. So those are the common, yeah. So you can also reiterate that, can you explain this line of code? Yeah. So yeah. So that's for code generation. So those are the common use cases for text generation. There are more. We just created a few in the interest of time. So other use cases, you can ask Gen AI to generate a poem or a lyrics to a song, generate jokes that's relevant to your topic or industry, generate riddles, haikus, essays, etc. So if it's text, Gen AI can do it. All right. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Glenn to um, yeah, to go through the other use cases of generative AI. So, Glenn, you can have the opportunity.
Right, thank you, RJ. So I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Before I get started, so I'm Glesser Bautista from the AAV Transformative Tech. I was the counterpart of RJ when we're doing the GenAI experimentation, but more focusedly on ChatGPT experimentation in AAV. So RJ has gone through several examples or use cases on creating contents from prompts. But this time around, what we have is we want to review the contents or the analysis of specific documents that is existing already. So we want to see how GenAI can assist in content review and recommendation. Starting with document review. So again, please note that only SBU approved and SBU provisioned enterprises instances must be used when you are uploading documents for GenAI purposes, and also in compliance with the SBU data governance, usage policy, and data privacy. For this example, we are uploading a draft policy, and our prompt is to identify any inconsistencies in the draft policy and provide recommendation or any missing provision. Now, the document upload feature at this moment works for ChatGPT. It is not available yet in the Gemini web app. So in terms of our results, as you can see, it was able to identify different sections of the document that we have uploaded, what are the inconsistent one, and what are the missing provisions. So those are some things in terms of capability that the GenAI can help us in terms of reviewing automatically the documents that are existing. The next set of example is on prompting with a code snippet. So basically, you will ask ChatGPT or a GenAI tool to explain what a specific code does. And just like what RJ showed a while ago, you may continue prompting if the response is not yet acceptable or is not yet understandable on your end. Please continue prompting the platform so that it will be more clear. You will be able to understand the code that you're trying to review or trying to generate. The next example or use case is on image review. So basically, this is uploading a photo into the platform. So the prompt is explain this image to me as the user who uploaded the prompt, or sorry, the photo. Now, in terms of our results, it was able to deduce that this is an agile methodology. So this is the Scrum framework in agile, right? So even though there is no mention of agile in the photo, it was able to provide that kind of point of view that okay, this is an agile framework or the Scrum framework, and it was able to provide in detail the different sections of those photos. I think some of the uh, um, guidance that we want to have for uploading photo is, of course, the photo must be clear, that the texts are readable as much as possible, because those are the inputs that will be got pulled by the platform to be able to generate this kind of results. And the next use case is on using GenAI to check for compliances. So for this prompt, we have identified different sources that are available publicly, which are the Philippine Privacy Portal and our Aboitiz Data Privacy page. Basically, we would like GenAI to assist us to look at the existing Aboitiz Data Privacy page and if against compliance to the Philippine Privacy Portal. Now, in terms of the results, it was able to provide analysis on these pages. And as you can see, mostly that our data privacy for Aboitiz is aligned with whatever is in the regulation, right? So again, important is to validate the result to ensure correctness, even though it was already mentioned by the response that it's already generally aligned. Because at the end of the day, we as the user has the responsibility to put out the best results out there for the um, task at hand. Now, this can also work if you're uploading documents. So, say for example, you are uploading a data privacy document and you want to compare it against the Philippine privacy provisions. So that's also possible, but again, please only use the SBU provision, SBU guided GenAI tools. Okay, so this is mostly the next set of example is mostly on visualization. So we've gone through text generation, we've gone through content review. Now we will go through the visual capabilities of NF Gen AI. And some of these platforms may not be yet usable at our current stage or our current roles, but this is something that you can look forward to of what's coming. So starting with image generation in our prompt. So I'm a project manager and I have a new project now. And I want to create a logo, which is called Project Agora. So basically, I prompted ChatGPT for this case to create a logo for that specific project, part of the official communications. As you can see, it was able to generate that image that I've requested for. You can reiterate depending on how many you want. You can also ask options like 3 options. Provide that to me. That's also possible to be included into your prompt. In terms of current limitations, though, ChatGPT, so as in this example, it's possible to do that, but Gemini, in terms of creating images with humans, it's not yet possible at this point, or has been turned off during the early stages of releases. So we still have to wait for that if they will be turned on back. But you can also see on the lower hand side of our slide that there's different platforms such as Midjourney, Canva AI, Copilot by Microsoft. So these tools are not yet endorsed for usage within our Avoidis instance. They are still due for due diligence review by different SBUs or by the different SBUs. So for these purposes, this is only meant to showcase that these are the different platforms that are available to you and that are available in the multimedia space for GenAI. Speaking of multimedia GenAI landscape, so this is just a partial list that we have sourced now in terms of different fields. So there's GPTs, there's integrated, there's purpose-built specifically for that media that needs to be generated. But again, there are more out there and more is coming out as the day passes by. So basically, these tools at this moment, if haven't been signed off, reviewed by your SBUs, they are not meant used for work. And again, so you have to consult with your SBU IT and CIS to ensure that they have already gone through the due diligence activities. And so please be guided accordingly with those policies. The next portion, I'm hope you've seen some of this example on video generating and editing. So this actually platforms are making a significant progress in terms of the quality, in terms of the results, specifically in video generation. So popular platforms such as Sora, Flux, and Kling AI are the leaders for these specific areas. But as you can see in the video, the images or the videos that have been generated are already in a quality that has been generated by a production house, for example. So these are already happening, and these are coming soon for us. Now, maybe something relevant to our role to us. So basically, GenAI, the text to AI speech capability, there are platforms that are available that can read out text or books or generate audio files that you can use for your projects, for voiceovers and your videos. Basically, one tool that is really focused on text to speech is Speechify. And then the other platforms where text-to-speech capability is integrated into the tool are Vertex AI of Google Cloud. We do have Google Vid that's part of Gemini, Synthesia, and Bing. So one more thing, also ChatGPT can also read the text generated out of the platform. So it can already read out to you whatever was generated. Again, please make sure that these platforms, if you're going to use that in your specific roles, Please ensure that this has been reviewed or has been signed off by your specific SBU, ITs, and CIS. And then one more use case for the media or the multimedia space. So music generation. So we would like to highlight this use case. Actually, this is one of the output of our experimenters or participant from the ChatGPT experimentation AEV. So Attorney Bits created a music for, sorry, what to say? A song for the Great Transformation to get that inspiration, And he used Suno to create that song. Essentially, what he did is he provided background to Suno and was able to develop the lyrics of the song. So it was a bit, I would say, relatable, whatever the song came out with. But I guess we can hear a few seconds of it, RJ, if you can do play.
Great transformation into the new apartheid is empowering our people, reaching new heights. High potential growth, a mindset renewed. Together we thrive in all that we do.
All right. That's a very, very catchy audio as well, no? The music that was created by the platform. So essentially, these are available in terms of if you have that specific use case. So Suno allows song creators to have the copyright over what was generated, but of course, there should be acknowledgement that it was created out of the AI platform or by Suno AI. Some other examples for music generation are Beethoven for instrumental background music, or 11 Loves for sound effects generator. Now, focusing on the output of AI in multimedia, so from photo to video to audio, they are really moving in a rapid pace in terms of improvements. So the length, so aside from the quality, the length of the video that can be generated is also increasing and increasing over time. And then the consistency of the visual elements part of that video, like was shown a while ago by Wolf in the example for Will Smith on the right hand side, they are also improving. So at the moment, maybe the use cases for the multimedia for general business users is not yet applicable to us at the moment, but this will be coming to us for us end users, maybe on a personal usage. Um, it will also be introduced in terms of the tools in the near future. Okay, so that's from multimedia. Multimedia. We will now shift to this strategic decision making. So how Gen AI can help us with some strategic decision making, and we have identified several use cases for these specific examples. So basically, starting with market trend analysis. So in this example, we have loaded or uploaded a chart for the Gen AI platform. Basically, our prompt is to interpret this chart, provide insights and advices in terms of my role as an investment manager and what is the specific format that I want to see it when it was resulted or when I receive the result. Now, in terms of the results, a table was generated as part of the prompt and in adherence to the context that was provided, which is solar company prompt. But with this result also, even though, like for example, it has provided insights, investments, theses, and due diligence, again, please validate the results. Please also check the sources where it came from, because that's very important when you're creating studies as well for like businesses within our group. The next example is a retrieval of stock prices online or different prices or different data that are available publicly. So for this case, we prompted in terms of pulling the latest AEV and avoid prices from the PSE Edge portal. So that's our official PSAI portal, and output it in a table format. So again, even though we've provided whether that this is the sources should come from PSE Edge. You should always check the link that is included, excuse me, included into the results so that it's correct and the results are also validated. Then the next example is on data visualization. This is just a continuation of the report generation that RJ presented a while ago. excuse me. So we are using the same set of sample data from report generation a while ago, but this time we are asking to create an analysis, create a data visualization out of this data set. Just do note again, this functionality is not yet available in Gemini at the moment. So please be aware of that if you're going to eventually use that platform. But in ChatGPT, with the updated prompt, it was able to generate this visualization, the dual axis, and part of that is an analysis of the dual axis chart as well. Sorry, give me a second. Sorry about that. Okay, so those are the examples in terms of different use cases of Gen AI, different whether it's multimedia, for strategic decision making, and reviewing content reviews, right? Now, the next set or the next portion is really focusing on customization. So these platforms like ChatGPT and Google, Gemini, they also have that capability to create a custom AI-enabled bot. So this is now more relatable to us because if you have that tasks at hand that you done it on a routinary basis, on a daily basis, and you want to automate those kinds of activities, um, this capability, these features of these platforms will be able to help you with that. But of course, you have to define what you need to be able to create that custom enabled bot. So what are the key elements when building a custom GPT or a gem for Google Gemini? So we just have three items that we want you to take note of. So firstly is to define the clear use cases where you will use this customization. Basically, what problem or what is the current task that you're trying to address? What is the objective of that specific customization, custom bot? And of course, what is the outcome that you want to achieve from that custom bot when a user use that bot, right? The second one is identify data sources. So it's important to build the knowledge base if it's going to be like a wiki kind of bot or a source of information, whether the knowledge base is from an internal documentation, from different FAQs, or from the internet. So ensure that the information that is uploaded, provided to this custom bot is accurate and tailored according to the use cases that you have defined. And then the last element is to customize instructions, of course. This includes the behavior of how GPT will, respond, will interact with the users. Also, in terms of the tone, the style, the format of the responses may also be included in that customized instructions. Now, we will do a live demo on how it's being done in ChatGPT and in terms of the custom GPT. Then in terms of live demo, I will share my screen also. But before that, so what we are creating today is basically I'm a business analyst and I want to generate a SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats on a specific business or industry in the Philippines. Now, my data sources is from the internet. As for me, this is a research work for business analyst. Again, important to note that for me, important to note as a business analyst, what are the sources or who are the sources of those information that the bot will provide to me. And definitely, I will fact check eventually the result that has been provided. In terms of instructions or the format, so I requested the bot to have a bullet points in terms of the response, maximum of 5 for each area of the SWOT. Also, I've added instruction, ask more information when not clear. So if what I've provided is not clear to the bot, you can prompt it to ask you more questions or trigger that conversation somehow. Because reiteration will really help refine the results of the bot depending on what you are expecting in terms of the result. Okay, so now I will share my screen. Just give me a second. Okay, I hope you can all see my screen. Okay. All right. So for AEV, we do have the ChatGPT team enabled already, and we do have members of the team who are part of this workspace. So this is the interface of the ChatGPT Enterprise enabled. As you can see, it's already the default view, and I'm sure you've used this also in your personal accounts in terms of the view, and you've seen it probably in some of the published material. But we will focus on doing a custom GPT. Now, so from the main interface, the ChatGPT platform or the OpenAI ChatGPT platform has the capability to create that managed workspace. To create that custom GPT. So I move to custom GPT, and this is what I will see. So I have the option to create a GPT on my own for different purposes, and then I will show you later how I built the SWOTer, or what we call to generate a SWOT analysis. But in terms of creating the sample for the SWOT, so it's very simple. It's not as complicated or as technical when you're building um, a bot before, right? So that's the beauty of GenAI now. It's mostly prompting, specifically for a non-technical background user. You'll be able to create your own bot without any development needed from the front end. The development is happening at the back end, but the platform will help you with that. You just really have to provide the input to the platform, and it will generate the bot that you are requesting for. Unlike before, the previous approach, it has to be really hard coded or developed or in a specific platform, right? But right now, the that kind of development is shifting where it's really prompt based now, and you'll be able to create your own bot. So for the configuration side, this is already somehow the development of the bot. So definitely you can create a bot and upload a photo so that it'll be more familiar. Or you can also use an AI generated image out of the platform. And then you have to provide the name and what is the bot about. Now this is an important part where you have to put the use case that you have defined. So again, I've added that I'm a business analyst and generating a SWOT analysis. Um, I've added instructions where you need to ask more information from the user who will be prompting you, and any related information from the internet with regards to that industry or sector that I prompted in the Philippines, just like I mentioned a while ago. Now, in terms of the output, like I mentioned, so these are the different sections of SWOT, maximum of 5 points and bullet points in bullet point format, and add in some risk and order of magnitude if possible, if that's available from the data sources. Provide the peso value if also possible. Now, you have to be elaborate. You can be elaborate as much as possible in terms of your instructions. So do not explain, do not or provide other context. Only output the SWOT matrix that I requested for. You only have one shot, so this is a little bit explicit, right? But also that you can instruct the bot to validate the result. But then again, we as the owner of the eventually the result, we want to validate that as well on our end. We've added instructions where unclear, ask for clarifications and directions. And though we mentioned already provide with reference, but we've also added that also to provide sources, just to capture that. Now, if you're familiar with already different custom GPTs or custom gems, there's already a conversation starter here. On the left-hand side, this is the configuration view. On the right-hand side, this is the preview view. And you can have the users be prompted with several questions. Okay, I want to identify the industry. So I guess basically what industry that is, or name a business to generate a SWOT analysis. So those are some conversation starter for the user to prompt the custom GPT. As mentioned, you can have the knowledge base created by you from the FAQ, from internal documentation, or from other sources. You can upload files to that, to the custom GPT. So basically, that's the portion that we will cover for now in respect to time, no. But there are other capabilities that custom GPT has that we may explore later on. But for these purposes, I will prompt it because you can preview somehow. So basically, I'm just not seeing it on my end. Give me a minute. Okay. So for me, I will do generate a SWOT analysis for agri-tech in the Philippines. So that's just a very simple prompt, right? So let's see how or what will be the output of this. Okay. So as it generates, based on the format that we've instructed, so different sections, so the strengths, what is the highlight of that specific input, and what is the source or the reference link for that item or input of the strength in terms of the aggregate. Same goes with the weaknesses. It's here, opportunities, and threats. So as you can see, there's nothing else provided. You can, in terms of the output of the GenAI or the custom GPT, because we've mentioned there's no explanation, there's no synthesis. It's really just bullet points. And it's because as a business analyst, I just want different sources, right? So that's the response to the instructions that I have provided. Okay, so basically that's it. That's how quickly you can create. Of course, generating instruction may take time. You can have Gen AI help you creating instructions as well, but of course it's outside of this interface. It's a normal interface of the platform. But you don't have to be technically enabled to create your custom GPT to have that already available for you. Again, do note that when you create a custom GPT, please create that in the SBU provision, SBU licensed GenAI platforms. Because if we're working on business data, we want to make sure this will not be going out of the public. Okay, I think we can continue, RJ, to our slide. And in that section, I think we will go through the Gemini Gens portion, RJ. So I'll hand over the floor again to RJ. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I'm sharing my screen again. All right. So actually, uh, very nice demo. Custom GPT. Um, for Gemini, they also have a counterpart, and this is a something that they just made available commercially. I think last month. So gems are custom versions of Gemini that are tailored to give you specific types of responses. So unfortunately, we were not able to include this during the experimentation because it was not available yet. But and this is not this is only available for paid Gemini Business or Gemini Enterprise. So on top of our current Google Workspace subscriptions. But just to give you a preview of what it looks like creating a new gem, very similar to what Glenn walked you through on creating a custom GPT. So you can have a name, you can upload an image to represent that gem, and the instructions. So the instructions will be part of the prompt as context that will be sent over to GenAI. And the gems will be available on the left side panel moving forward once you create this. So one question here is, are you able to share gems with your other colleagues within the Google Workspace? So right now it's not available, but you can share the instructions so they can recreate the gems on their own instances of the gem. So no demos because we don't have access to it yet, but hopefully we'll start seeing custom gems, custom GPTs more in the. All right, so at this point, we will now focus more on Gemini for Google Workspace features. So the following features that we will showcase here is only available to Gemini Business and Enterprise. So this is a paid add-on on top of our core Google Workspace. So if you are interested to have these features activated in your accounts, please reach out to your SBU IT. And since it's on top of our current Google Workspace subscription, the data that we send here are already protected by the enterprise grade security. But we still remind everyone to be very mindful of the confidential data that we send over. So let's start with what we can expect once you have Gemini activated in your Gmail. So this is a quick demo without having to go outside Gmail. You can already ask it to help you write something. So same prompt framework is applicable, PTCF. And then there are other options to formalize, elaborate, or shorten the generated output. So that's Gemini and Gmail. Gemini and Gmail, when we were doing the experiments, it was very useful also for searching emails within your inbox. Gemini and Google Docs, similar to Gmail, you don't have to go outside Docs. You can already ask to generate a draft within Google Docs. So yeah, so this is we're playing a recording here. We have prepared more use cases specific to these features of Gemini. But in the interest of time, we'll be skipping them. But we'll make them available in the slides that we will be sharing. So if you also notice, there were option to further reiterate that you can change the tone, you can rephrase, you can summarize, bulletize it. So that's what you can expect in Gemini and Google Docs. There's also image generation within Google Slides. So you don't have to go outside Google Slides. You can create an image there. You can also choose a style. So you don't have to make it part of your prompt. It's already part of the dropdown. Do you want it a photography, a background, a clip art, and illustration? So again, a known limitation, and I hope Google addresses this soon. It's unable to generate an image of it. So stick with landscapes and materials for now. So, and Gemini in Sheets, so you can use the help you organize feature within Google Sheets. So this is very useful if you're stuck on starting out on something. So you can ask Gemini to create a draft table for you. So there, yeah. So instead of starting from scratch, you can just prompt that based on your requirements. So come up with a sample itinerary or work breakdown structure, and then it will provide you with dummy data. And then it's your next steps would be to populate it with the actual data that you are actually using. And then Gemini in Meet. So this is a very cool feature and a very useful feature during the experimentation also. During meetings, you can, if you have Gemini activated, you can ask Gemini to start taking notes for you. So just a disclaimer here, the output will still need to be reviewed. The transcription generated is not 100% accurate, but it's already a good start in terms of coming up with meeting minutes. But I also like about this feature is that the output is already in Google Docs, and it's going to be attached on your Google Calendar event. So that's and it's also being sent to your email, so it's available everywhere. And also part of the notes is who attended the meeting and who picked what. Yeah. Then Gemini in Drive, this is also another very useful feature during the experimentation, heavily used during the experimentation. It's like being able to converse with your documents. And yeah, so example here within Google Drive, you can ask it to explain the file. It can go as far as looking for details inside the file, maybe a PDF file, a Google Docs, a Google Slides file. So as long as it's within Drive, you can converse with it and ask for insights. And then this is a new product that is still coming soon, Gemini and Google Beats. So I'm going to play this video, but it's a video creation tool, and they have also incorporated Gemini in this tool. So this is a short 1 minute and 36 seconds that we play.
excited to share the details of the launch of our new product.
All right, so just a disclaimer, it's not available yet in our workspace um, instances. So it's going to be part of the workspace core, and they're rolling this out sometime later this year. So during the Gen AI experimentations, we had the opportunity to actually try this out. It was really cool, especially for the Gemini integration of it. So you can just attach your Google Slides and then ask Google Vids, Gemini and Google Vids to come up with a storyline based on the slides. And then the next steps there is just to edit it, rearrange it, and put some content where it's relevant. There's also text to AI speech. So you can ask Gemini in Google Vids to generate the script for you based on the content of your slides, and it can also generate the audio for you. So um, for those who have video creation in their work streams, this could be potentially very useful. All right, so we have more detailed use cases on these capabilities with Gemini and Google Workspace, but in the interest of time, we have skipped them. But we'll be sharing these slides together with those skipped contents for your own consumption. And again, reach out to your SBU IT for if you are interested to have this activated. So just a disclaimer, just keep in mind that they will have cost for this one. Okay, so we've come to the last section of our session. So with all the recent developments, what do we expect will the future of work be with AI? So if only considering Gen AI, no doubt that this technology has the potential to revolutionize many industries and professions. In fact, it is already starting to significantly impact the future of work. Generative AI is making it possible for anyone to learn new skills and knowledge quickly and easily. This is creating new opportunities for people to upskill and reskill, and it is making the workforce more adaptable and resilient. So very aligned with when we open with SMS message, student message. So this also enabled the rise of AI-enabled employees. So an AI-enabled employee is someone who can use AI tools and technologies to their advantage. So they understand the potential benefits of AI and are able to use AI responsibly to improve their work. So some of the things that an AI-enabled employees can do on their own with generative AI, automate tasks. So automating tasks, freeing the employees to focus on more strategic creative work. With Gen AI, you can also improve efficiency on many processes, saving time and money. You can generate new ideas, helping you to come up with innovative solutions to problems and make better decisions to analyze data and provide insights that can help employees make better decisions. So I hope the use cases that we presented all align to this, and that's the goal, to 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 convert our A people to AI-enabled employees. And AI-enabled employees are essential for business that want to succeed in the age of AI. So by empowering A people to use AI, we are a step closer to becoming the conglomerate. And another impact it will have is in the labor landscape. So while generative AI has enhanced workplaces and employees alike, the introduction of AI-powered tools has also led to the introduction of new roles. So these AI jobs are focused on improving the work environment and improve employee efficiency. And in the long run, considering the bigger AI applications beyond generative AI, it's not long when we start to see AI office mates in the workplace. So the steps we're doing now is just part of the preparations for that shift. And just a refresher of what AEB is doing in preparation to this. This brings us back to our Gen AI strategy. SBUs may have a similar custom fit version, or maybe they're crafting it for their own operations. But the critical part here is the circle wrapping around the strategy. It's important to operationalize this. And just sharing what we're doing in AEB is very heavy enablement. So technical enablement, making sure employees are equipped with the tools and resources they need to use AI effectively. So this includes providing them with access to AI-powered tools and platforms, as well as training on how to use these tools. So this includes this session. Process enablement, focusing on changing the way work is done to take advantage of AI. This includes automating tasks, streamlining processes, and creating new workflows that are optimized for AI and cultural enablement. So this one is focusing on changing the culture of the organization to be more supportive of AI. So this includes creating a culture of experimentation, encouraging employees to share ideas and rewarding success. So for the SBUs, reach out to your SBU IT if you are interested in these enablements. At this point, we are just preparing this for execution in AAV, but we're open to scaling this up to a wider audience. All right, so that brings us to the end of the session. At this point, I'd like to call on Andrew to moderate.
All right.
You
Thank you so much, RJ. Before anything else, before we end this session, of course, for sure, a lot of us really have questions regarding our learning session for today. Since for most, it might be new for us, no, but for some, they are already practicing or trying to immerse themselves into Gen AI. But before we go to the questions, RJ, Gleck, and Wolf that were shared to us, I'd just like to highlight that someone mentioned that A plus 10 articulate core behavior is also very important when doing our prompting. Very important for us to be more clear, to have good communication in terms of really composing. No, if you can notice a while ago, we've had a structure, a certain structure in how we do our prompting. So I hope that guided you on how to have effective prompting. So again, articulate core behavior is very important in this one. All right. So maybe for the benefit of those also who are joining us via our YouTube live streaming, we will ask some questions which were also answered a while ago. Maybe Wolf or the Transtech team would also like to emphasize on this one. Let's highlight the first question. Let's have it from Dea for the report generation. Can Gen AI turn spreadsheets into data visualization? I've experimented with this feature earlier, but did not find a good tool for it yet. All right. Would you like to
You
emphasize
got
or highlight on this one?
new
Yep. From our Transtech team. Actually, Wolf also have his answer here. Already had good results with ChatGPT's data analysis and visualization. My personal experience with Gemini was so where a structured data warehouse exists, it can be quite good in modern data platforms. If in case our Transtech team would like to emphasize or give highlight on this one, all right, I think we're good on that. Yep.
Yeah, I'll
Cool.
very briefly just add, I think it highly depends on how well structured your data set and your spreadsheets are. And that is really a key thing. And I think, I mean, you've seen the examples that the team just showed you. It can work quite well. It's never going to be that perfect chart of visualization that you're going to take a screenshot of and copy paste into a slide deck at this moment. But for exploratory analysis, where you're trying to understand where you quickly want to get something to have a conversation about, it can work quite well, but it really depends on how well structured your data is and then exactly how you prompt it. But you can get quite good results today already.
Mhm. All right. Thank you so much. Good warehousing, data warehousing is the key. Right. Thank you so much for that, Wolf. Our next question, which was also answered a while ago, also from Dea. Um, for email response drafting, can Gemini learn my style from previous emails? So the answer to this is with a little more extensive prompt engineering and a Google Doc, yes. You have to generate a document that contains some of your sample writing. You would then modify the format component and instruct it to follow the same structure, writing style, etc., as in the examples. Inside Gmail natively, not sure if it's supported outside of the box at this point. Out of the box, rather, at this point. Any emphasis on this? Our Transtech team? Or anything to add for this one? Or we're good?
I guess for me, on not on Gemini, but like if you're using ChatGPT, for example, it is able to know in terms of your persona, or you can also actually load how you want your style to be when if you're asking it to write an email. Because in the ChatGPT platform, there's already a memory of you when you do that interactions with ChatGPT, and it can learn from that style of conversation. So that's on the ChatGPT.
The other way that you can think of it, you saw the example that Gleck walked you through on the custom GPTs or gems, as they're called in Gemini, or in Microsoft Copilot, I think they're called Copilot Studio, right? So in these examples, you can give it the background information. So you can upload documents that it draws context from. So what you can do is you can create essentially a long document of all of some of your writing samples, some memos, some emails, some text, and then use these custom instructions to say refer to those documents, extract the writing style, and apply it in the writing. So this is that if you don't want to have to reapply this very long prompt every time, you could use exactly this feature of these custom GPTs or gems or custom copilots in order for you to get this result today. And this is really a good example where, it might not be in Gmail today or in your email application. It might be there in 6 months, who knows? But you might work around it already with prompt engineering and a little bit of that creativity and that experimentation.
All right, thank you so much for that, Wolf and Glenn, for answering that question. We have another question from our Q&A. I think this was answered as well, but let me reiterate the question for everyone. Let me repeat the question for everyone. What are the rules regarding LLMs that can be run locally, like Meta Llama series, using Olama front end? Are we allowed to use it? It was answered already. Just to repeat to everyone, no, please note the specific licensing for the local LLMs, whether they allow commercial license or whether they allow commercial license. From my understanding, MetaLlama itself should be okay since we fall below the monthly active users threshold. For running locally, please have Olama or any other runtime vetted as a non-standard app rather by CSS and IT prior to use. Any other emphasis or additional information for this one? Transteching? We're good. All right. Okay, so we have some more questions actually coming in from our chat this time. There's one from Glenn. Can you provide a relevant use case within the field's engineering? So, like for mechanical or for electrical engineers.
Yeah,
Is
so
there
this
a
is
yes, Wolf?
quite an interesting question. And it really depends on context. So I'm an engineer by background, and I can think of a couple, but it really depends. But here, the ethics and the responsible use are quite important, right? I would never use a GenAI to calculate if something is safe, if something is safe to use, right? But sometimes, if I want to use it for giving me a background, hey, what should I consider when designing X, or what are possible regulations or standards I need to check out, or can you summarize the standard for me? In those cases, I might use it, but the key thing here really is on the focus, responsible use. It is on me as the engineer in the end to check and verify that what comes out makes sense. It can help me accelerate, but I would never use it for a safety critical task, and I would never use it for something where essentially life could be in harm or in danger because of it. So I know this question was asked anonymously. Sorry, it wasn't asked anonymously, but if you'd like, you can reach out. We can have a specific chat because engineering is a vast field. But again, think about the responsible use and then, but it can still be an accelerant in getting some tasks done.
All right, thank you so much for that, Wolf. We also have another question from our Q&A. Question is, has Gemini integrated new features in Looker Studio already? Our Transtech team?
Maybe I can take
Yep.
that. So when we met with Google, they have plans. They were able to showcase plans of integrating that. But in terms of the timeline, I think that's going to be some time, maybe next year. So, but what we know what we've seen so far is that it has something to do with the data sources also that you integrate with Looker Studio, and as and I think one of the things that we also highlighted during that session with Google is that it would be a good use case also for Looker Studio to be able to prompt the dashboards based on the data that's there. They might they might incorporate that when it's going to be rolled out. But yeah, that's something that they're also actively developing.
All right. Thank you so much for that, RJ. I hope for those who were able to again ask their questions, you were able to take note of the responses from our speakers. Let's see if we have another question. All right, another question. By the way, just a reminder for those who are joining us via YouTube live streaming, feel free to chat your questions. All right, if you happen to have any. Now we have another question. Are all Aboitiz accounts in the enterprise plan already? Again, answer for this is no, only who is explicitly subscribed. Based from what they've mentioned a while ago, again, please be in touch with your IT team. Just in case you're curious about the subscriptions, Gen AI subscriptions that you have within your respective BUs. Any emphasis on this, Transtech team? Emphasis or anything? Any reminder? Okay. All right. Let's see if we happen to have another question. I guess we happen to have another anonymous question. Um, One question is, what if my IT said that we really don't have access to any licensed Gen AI tools? What do we do? That's another question. Transtech team?
Yeah, so the key thing is you have to stay within the guidelines that are issued in your business unit related to one, acceptable use. So consult your acceptable use policy, and secondly, consult your non-standard application policy. And your CIS teams can advise you on that as well. So the key thing is we do not want any of our data to get out. This is why the focus when it touches internal, confidential, identifiable, or personal information, it definitely and absolutely has to be in a licensed, approved, vetted enterprise subscription. That's the hard rule. The most important thing is check with your local CIS, work with them, evaluate, demonstrate the business case. There is ways that you can start using it, but stay within the confines of one, the acceptable use policies applicable to your SBU or BU, and secondly, the data policies as well.
All right, thank you so much for that. So again, everyone, know we have to make sure that what we are using is the official license that our BU has granted to us. Again, as to avoid any data leaks or any sharing of confidential information that might go out in public. So I hope you were able to take note of that. I guess the second question is kind of related not to what was answered a while ago. Can I use my free Gen AI tool registered under my personal email when at work? All right. So again, based from what Wolf has mentioned a while ago, please make sure that we're only using the Gen AI tools which were granted to us officially by our respective BUs. All right, please take note of that. And of course, the policies that go within those usage. Like, again, all the confidentiality of the data that we are sharing, we must take note that we are very much conscious of that. All right. On this point, I think we don't happen to have any other questions from our live audience via YouTube. I guess they might be still thinking about their questions, but if in case, no, everyone, you happen to have, sorry, we have one more from Q&A. One last question. What are the accepted Gen AI tools? I think that's the last question. Our gentleman from TransTech team.
So again, I would recommend you to reach out to BUIT. That might really change depending on which BU you talk about, and that's I think why like the number one rule: check what is the non-standard application, the tools available in your business unit with your IT or your CIS. And for AAV, I'm happy to answer. You can reach out directly.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Wolf. So again, as a reminder to everyone, please feel free to get in touch with your IT counterpart and your SBUs for you to be able to check, again, the Gen AI tools that you are to use or that you can use within your business units. Okay. If you haven't have any questions, our fellow A people, please feel free to chat or email us or email the Aboitiz Academy as well, and we will course through rather all your inquiries or questions to our subject matter expert, our gentleman from our TransTech team. Okay, so again, thank you everyone Thank you so much again, Wolf, RJ, and Gleck, for a very enlightening session on crafting effective Gen AI prompts based on the drills, exercises, frameworks, and insights shared today. We encourage you to take what you've learned and start applying generative AI to your work as immediately as possible. Again, the potential to boost creativity, streamline tasks, and drive smarter solutions is in your hands. Remember, mastering AI isn't just about staying current, it's about staying ahead. Now, before we end, we would love to hear your thoughts on today's session. Please take a moment to complete the feedback form that is flashed on your screen right now. Your feedback is very much important to us for us to be able to really improve our learning sessions moving forward. Right? Please scan the QR code that you can see on your screen. I hope you're able to scan it. And please feel free to give your feedback for us to be able to improve our learning sessions moving forward. Okay? We'll give time for you to be able to scan the QR code. Please share that to us. And we're very much happy. This is acknowledge to everyone. We're very much happy that we have around 500 participants today, which means that a lot of people are very much interested in learning Gen AI. So I hope that you stick with us in our future learning sessions for other generative AI topics or anything about generative AI, right? Okay, I hope you're able to scan the QR code rather already. Okay, now as we conclude, we'd like to acknowledge the transformative tech team for sharing to us their Gen AI expertise. A virtual round of applause, everyone, for our transformative tech team for sharing their Gen AI expertise to us. Thank you so much, and of course, we'd like to thank you, our A people, for participating today. A virtual round of applause to you as well. Thank you so much, our dear A people, for supporting our learning sessions. Now, thank you everyone for your participation. This program is being recorded. We'll be sharing the materials to you, and we'll also share the recording to you after this learning session. We look forward to seeing you in our future learning sessions, especially in our Tech Up sessions and our Aboitis Academy sessions. Maraming salamat everyone. Happy Friday. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.